Is reincarnation real? This is a spiritual conversation between Rishi Agastya and his disciple Vajranabha. In the sacred forests of Dandakaranya, where the air was thick with the scent of sandalwood and the melodies of unseen birds, lived the great Rishi Agastya, one of the most revered sages in ancient Bharat. His wisdom was boundless, his power immense, and his insight deeper than the ocean. Among his devoted disciples was Vajranabha, a young seeker whose mind was filled with endless curiosity about the cycle of birth and rebirth. One evening, as the golden sun cast its final glow upon the earth, Vajranabha approached his guru with a question that had troubled him for long. Vajranabha bowed before his guru and asked, "Guruji, is reincarnation real? If it is, then who was I in my past lives, and what will I become in my future births?" Rishi Agastya, seated beneath a sacred peepal tree, opened his eyes and smiled. "Ah, Vajranabha, you ask of the great wheel of samsara, the cycle of birth and rebirth. But tell me first, who are you?" Vajranabha hesitated and replied, "I am Vajranabha, your disciple." Agastya shook his head. "That is your name, not who you are." Vajranabha thought for a moment and said, "I am a Brahmana, a seeker of truth." The sage smiled again. "That is your current role in this life, but who were you before this birth? And who will you be in the next?" Vajranabha's mind raced. If he could not even define himself in this life, how could he understand who he was in the past or would be in the future? Agastya gestured toward the flowing river nearby and said, "Come, my child. The river shall answer your question." They stood at the banks of a mighty river, its waters shimmering under the moonlight. Agastya bent down, cupped some water in his hands, and let it flow back into the river. "Vajranabha, tell me, where did this water come from?" Vajranabha replied, "It was part of the river, Guruji." Agastya nodded. "Before that, it must have fallen as rain. And before that, it was a cloud." Agastya smiled. "And before that?" Vajranabha thought for a moment. "It was part of the ocean." Agastya then pointed at the flowing river. "And where will this water go?" "It will return to the ocean, evaporate, become a cloud again, and fall back as rain." Agastya placed his hand on Vajranabha's shoulder and said, "Just like this water changes form but remains water, so too does the soul change bodies but remains the same. Your body may change, but the essence of who you are is eternal. Reincarnation is not a belief, it is the rhythm of nature itself." Vajranabha's eyes widened. "So, my Guru, the soul moves from one body to another just as water moves through different forms." Rishi Agastya smiled. "Yes, my child. But do not be attached to the past or the future. Instead, ask, what is the purpose of this journey?" Vajranabha, now more curious, asked, "But Guruji, who was I in my past life? Can you tell me?" Agastya picked up a clay pot filled with water. "Tell me, Vajranabha, where was this water before it was in this pot?" "It was in the river, Guruji." "And before that?" "Perhaps in another vessel." Agastya then shattered the clay pot with his staff. The water spilled back into the earth. "Does it matter what shape the water had before?" Vajranabha remained silent. "Your past lives are like different pots that once held your soul. Some were beautiful, some were plain, some were strong, and some were weak. But what matters now is how pure is the water within. The past is gone, my child. The question is, how will you shape your present?" Vajranabha bowed deeply. Still, one last doubt remained in his mind. Guruji, if my past is gone, what about my future? What will I be in my next life? Agastya pointed to a seedling growing near the riverbank. Tell me, Vajranabha, what will this tiny seed become? A great tree, Guruji. And what determines whether it grows strong or weak? Vajranabha thought and replied, the soil, the water, the sunlight, and how well it is nurtured. Agastya nodded. Your future birth is like this seed. What you become in the next life depends on the thoughts, actions, and karma you plant in this life. A tiger does not become a sage in one lifetime, nor does a cruel man become a saint overnight. Just as the seed carries within it the potential of the tree, so too does your karma shape your next life. Vajranabha folded his hands in deep reverence. So, Guruji, my future is not written, it is created by how I live today. Agastya's face glowed with wisdom. Yes, my child. Shape your present with dharma, and your future will blossom like a sacred lotus. That night, under the vast sky, Vajranabha sat in deep contemplation. He no longer wondered about who he was in the past, nor did he fear what he would be in the future. He realized that the soul is eternal, only the bodies change. He understood that reincarnation was not a mystery, but a natural flow like the river, like the seed, like the clay pot that once held water. He bowed before his Guru and said, Guruji, I shall no longer ask who I was or who I will be. I shall only ask who am I becoming? Agastya smiled, his eyes reflecting the timeless wisdom of the Rishis. Now, my child, you have truly begun your journey toward liberation. Moral of the story. Reincarnation is like water changing forms. The soul moves through different bodies, but remains the same. The past is like a broken pot, it does not matter what it was, only how pure the water, soul, within is. Your future life is shaped by the karma you create today. Plant the right seeds, and you shall bloom beautifully. Do not ask what you were, ask what you are becoming. Liberation, moksha, is when you transcend the cycle, realizing you were never truly bound to birth and death at all. You are not the body, nor the past, nor the future. You are the eternal traveler, awakening from one dream to another. Om Namah Shivaya.